Our story begins with a mother named Nina who takes her daughter Bella and travels to the United States, hoping to start a new life there. But soon, she runs into legal trouble. Her immigration papers aren't complete. Because of that, she has to save up money and hire a lawyer to fix her situation. Her friend Layla helps her get a job working as a housekeeper for a man named Luther in a house far away from the city, and more importantly, far from the government's eyes. Because if immigration authorities find out she's there, they'll arrest her immediately. Nina's daughter Bella suddenly feels desperate to use the bathroom. Nina asked Layla to stop the car for a moment and told her, "I'll let Bella relieve herself near those trees." But just before getting back into the car, a strange man appears and says, "I need your help." Nina immediately gets scared and rushes back into the car with her daughter. Layla drives away quickly, saying they're probably highway robbers or something. After a while, they finally reach Luther's house, a large home in a remote, isolated area with a small storage shed beside it. Layla talks to Luther and explains Nina's situation. She tells him she'll work for you for a few days, take care of the house, and make sure you don't need anything. Luther agrees, but there's something unsettling about the way he looks at Nina. His eyes seem dark, like he's hiding something. After that, he takes Nina and her daughter inside to show them around the house. As soon as Nina saw a deer's head mounted on the wall, she got scared and asked, "Is that real?" Luther smiled and said, "Of course it's real, I hunted it myself. One of the finest deer I've ever caught." Then he led her to his bedroom, showing her an old, framed photograph hanging on the wall. He said, "That's my grandfather back when he used to celebrate Harvest Day." Nina looked confused and asked, "What exactly is Harvest Day?" Luther stared deeply into her eyes and replied with a cold smile, "Don't worry, you'll find out soon enough. Just a few more days and we'll all celebrate it together." The next morning, Nina wakes up and is shocked to find that her daughter isn't beside her in bed. Panic fills her chest as she rushes out of the room, searching everywhere, until she finally finds Bella sitting at the dining table with Luther, who has already prepared breakfast and is waiting for Nina to join them. He'd even fed Bella already. Feeling embarrassed, Nina sits down and says softly, "I'm so sorry from tomorrow. I'll wake up early and make breakfast myself. I'm supposed to serve you, not the other way around." Luther smiles and replies, "No need to rush, you just got here. You should rest a little first." While they're eating, Nina suddenly hears strange noises coming from the basement. She flinches and looks around nervously. Luther notices and says, "Why so jumpy? Don't worry, it's probably just animals sneaking in through the basement window. It faces the woods, they sometimes crawl in through there." After that, Luther takes Nina outside to show her around the house and his farm. He points toward a small storage shed at the edge of the field and says firmly, "No one is allowed to go inside that shed no matter what happens." Nina, a little confused by his tone, replies, "All right, why are you yelling? I wasn't planning to go in anyway." Later, she starts cleaning the house but soon begins to feel weak and dizzy. It turns out she's caught a bad cold. When Luther notices she's sick, he suddenly acts caring. He prepares a cup of herbal tea and brings it to her, saying, "Drink this, it'll make you feel better." At first, Nina hesitates, unsure if she should trust him, but eventually she gives in and drinks it. Within minutes, her vision starts to blur. Her head spins violently, and before she knows it, she collapses into a deep, heavy sleep, completely unaware of what's happening around her. The next morning, Nina wakes up feeling completely refreshed, no sign of her cold at all. In fact, she feels more energetic and alert than ever. Luther smiles and says warmly, "That's wonderful to hear. Let me pour you another cup." This time, Nina drinks the herbal tea without hesitation. But as she sips, Luther watches her with a strange, unsettling look, something dark and hidden behind his smile, something we still don't understand. A few minutes later, she starts to feel dizzy again, her eyes heavy, and she drifts back into a deep sleep. When she wakes up the next day, she feels perfectly fine once more. Later, while working in the farmyard, Luther tells her, "I'm heading into town to buy a few supplies. Keep your eyes open, there are wild animals in the woods." Then he leaves. Not long after, Nina spots the same man she saw earlier on the road running towards her, shouting, "Help me, please help me." Terrified, Nina grabs her daughter and rushes inside the house, locking the door behind them. After a while, Luther came back, and Nina told him about the strange man. He said, "Look, my girl, this place is dangerous. If any stranger comes near the house, kill him immediately." Nina was frightened by his words and kept quiet. She's not into killing. A little later, Luther took her with him while he went to hunting. The man sees them and comes over, saying to Nina, "I didn't mean to scare you. I have a problem, and I'm only asking for help, that's all." Suddenly, Luther struck him on the head and knocked him down. He aimed his gun at the man's head and demanded, "What do you want?" The man replied, "By God, sir, I just want someone to help me. My car broke down on the road and there's no mechanic nearby." Nina felt sorry for the man and convinced Luther to help him. Eventually, Luther agreed, but on one condition: the man would stay with them for 2 nights and join them for Harvest Day. He asked, "What's your name and where are you from?" The man replied, "My name's Alex, I'm from Canada." Luther nodded slowly and said, "All right then, Alex. 2 days, that's all. By then your car will be fixed." Nina could sense that Alex was kind and genuine, the complete opposite of Luther, who remained mysterious and unsettling. That night, before going to bed, Nina looked out the window and froze. She saw a figure wearing a deer mask standing silently in the garden. But the moment she blinked and looked again, the figure was gone. She tried to brush it off, convincing herself it was just her imagination. The next morning, Nina wakes up and once again finds that her daughter isn't beside her. Panicking, she rushes out out of the room and searches the entire house until she finally spots Bella playing with Luther in the garden. She runs to her, hugs her tightly, and says, "Don't ever play with strangers again, sweetheart." But then out of the corner of her eye, Nina notices 3 figures standing a short distance away, all of them wearing deer masks, silently watching her. Startled, she points and says to Alex and Luther, "Look over there!" But when she turns back, they're gone. Luther frowns and says calmly, "You're imagining things, Nina. You must be tired, you need to rest." They all head back inside to prepare breakfast. While they're in the kitchen, Luther says, "I want you to dress up nicely today, we've got guests coming over." Then with a crooked smile, he adds, "I've got a dress upstairs that'll make you look absolutely stunning. Come with me, I'll show you." She follows Luther upstairs to his room, where she notices a strange-looking book lying on a table. Its cover marked with the same deer symbols as the masks worn by the mysterious figures she saw earlier. Curious, Nina picks it up and starts to open it, but the moment Luther sees her, he snatches it from her hands and snaps, "How dare you touch something that belongs to me without permission?" Startled, she quickly apologizes. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Luther glares at her for a moment, then softens his tone and hands her a dress, saying, "Here, wear this tonight. I want you to make me proud in front of my guests." That night, Nina puts on the elegant dress and comes downstairs with her daughter. But as soon as she enters the room, she notices everyone staring at her, their eyes cold, their smiles unnerving. She greets them politely, shaking hands one by one, yet deep down, she feels uneasy. Something about the way they look at her doesn't feel safe at all. Nina quietly pulls Alex aside and says, "I need to talk to you. Don't you think these guests are acting strange?" Alex nods slightly, replying, "You're right, I haven't felt comfortable around them since I got here. What do you say once I fix my car? You and your daughter come with me. We can leave this place together." Nina sighs and says sadly, "I can't. I need money to hire a lawyer and fix my legal papers. I can't just walk away." Now Alex looks at her with concern and says gently, "All right, it's your choice. I won't force you to do anything." Just then, Luther appears behind them and asks sharply, "What are you two doing here?" "The guests are asking about you." Alex quickly replies, "Nothing, we're coming right now." As they head back toward the table, Alex leans closer to Nina and whispers, "Don't trust anyone here." Then they go downstairs to sit with the guests. Then Luther turned to Alex and said calmly, "Didn't I tell you your car's fixed? Come with me to the garage, I'll show you." Trusting him, Alex followed. But instead of heading to the garage, Luther led him to the storage shed beside the house, the same one he'd warned Nina never to enter. The moment Alex stepped inside, Luther struck him on the head with a metal bar, knocking him unconscious. Back in the house, Nina started to notice that Alex had been gone for too long. Worried, she went outside to look for him. As she stepped out onto the porch, her eyes froze. In the distance stood a figure wearing a deer mask, silently watching her. She blinked and whispered to herself, "Is this real, or am I imagining it?" When she opened her eyes again, the figure had vanished. Luther suddenly appeared behind her and asked coldly, "What are you doing out here?" Nina turned quickly and said, "I was just looking for Alex. He's been gone a while." Luther replied casually, "Alex left. He took his car and drove off." Nina frowned, confused. "That's strange, he didn't even say goodbye." Luther shrugged and said, "He was in a hurry." Then he smiled and handed her a cup. "Here, have your usual tea, you'll feel better." Trusting him, Nina took the herbal drink and sipped it, but moments later, her vision began to blur. The room spun violently around her until she collapsed, slipping into unconsciousness. In her dazed state, she began to hallucinate. She saw herself lying on a table surrounded by people wearing deer masks, chanting strange words and performing dark rituals over her. When she finally woke up, she found herself wearing different clothes than before. Terrified, she kept asking herself, was that a dream or did it really happen? The next day, while cleaning the house, she noticed drops of blood on the floor. Her heart started racing. She whispered to herself, where did this blood come from? Nina quietly sneaks into Luther's room, her heart pounding in her chest. She opens his closet and finds a wooden box hidden inside. Curious and nervous, she slowly lifts the lid, and what she sees inside shocks her to the core. The box is filled with photographs, horrifying images showing Luther and his guest eating human flesh. That's when the truth hits her. The people she's been living among are cannibals, and Harvest Day is the night they celebrate by feasting on human meat. Suddenly she hears footsteps approaching. Luther is coming back. Panicking, Nina quickly puts everything back exactly where it was and slips out of the room. As she hurries downstairs, she hears strange noises coming from the basement, groaning, scraping something moving in the dark. Driven by fear and curiosity, she decides to open the basement door to see what's inside, but just as she reaches for the handle, Luther appears holding a knife in his hand. He looks at her coldly and says, "If you care about your life, don't let me ever catch you near this basement again." The next morning, Luther told Nina, "I'm heading into town to pick up some supplies, I'll be back soon." As soon as she was sure he had left, Nina decided this was her only chance. She hurried to the basement door and tried to open it, but it was locked with a key. Desperate, she grabbed an axe from the shed and smashed the lock until the door finally burst open. What she saw inside froze her blood. Alex was there, chained and barely breathing. When she pulled the hood off his head, she gasped in horror. Both of his eyes had been gouged out. Nina whispered, trembling, "Don't be scared, it's me, Nina. We're getting out of here now." She helped Alex up, grabbed her daughter, and the three of them ran into the dark forest trying to escape. But as they ran, Luther suddenly appeared from the shadows and struck Nina hard across the head. Everything went black. That night, she slowly regained consciousness, only to find herself tied to a large wooden table, surrounded surrounded by the cult members, the same masked followers who served Luther. They stood around her in a circle, whispering and preparing for what looked like a ritual sacrifice. The real shock came when Nina looked around the table and saw Layla, her close friend, sitting among them. At that moment, everything became clear. Layla hadn't brought Nina here to help her. She had brought her here to be eaten. Luther opened his strange old book and began chanting the ritual, versus his deep voice echoing through the dark room. Then he raised his head and said, "Tonight is harvest day, and we begin it by drinking the blood of our prey." He started passing around cups filled with Alex's blood, and the cult members drank eagerly, smiling with twisted delight. Then came the feast. Luther lifted the lid off the large silver tray in front of them, and to Nina's horror, it was Alex's severed head. Nina screamed with all her strength, but her cries were muffled by the cloth tied around her mouth. The woman beside her leaned over and tightened the gag, but Nina began to vomit uncontrollably, spilling all over the table. The sight and smell disgusted the cult members. They pushed their plates away, faces twisted in disgust. Angry, one of them shouted at Luther, "This is your fault. You shouldn't have brought a weak victim like her to the ceremony." He drags Nina up and locks her along with her daughter in the basement. After he leaves and slams the door shut, Nina seizes the moment and whispers, "Get the scissors in front of you, sweetheart." Bella reaches for them. Then Nina cuts the bandages off her hands and frees their feet. Then she spots a knife and quietly hides it against her leg. "Mom, there's a rifle here," Bella says in a trembling voice. Nina grabs the rifle, her heart pounding, courage surging through her veins, and steps out to finish them. As soon as she comes out, she sees the young man standing right in front of her, the same boy who'd been sitting with them at the table. She fires once, hitting him in the stomach. But as she tries to pass, he grabs her leg, so she fires a second shot, straight between his eyebrows. Without hesitation, Nina heads toward the storage shed beside the house, the place where she knows Luther must be. But just as she reaches the door, Layla appears out of nowhere and attacks her. Nina fights back fiercely, stabs her with the knife and finishes her off. Then, Nina pushes open the shed door. She steps inside and freezes. The shed is filled with human body parts. Her mind can't even process what she's seeing. But before she can move, Luther suddenly appears in front of her. Without thinking, Nina raises the rifle and fires. The bullet rips through his shoulder, but he barely flinches. She pulls the trigger again. Click, empty. Luther snarls. Then he drags her to a wooden box, throws her inside, and locks it shut. Terrified, Bella runs away into the woods. Outside, Luther wipes the blood from his shoulder, smiling coldly. Then, in a mocking tone, he calls out, "Bella, where are you, sweetheart? Mommy wants to see you." His voice echoes through the trees, and finally Luther finds her. Just in time, Nina bursts in and saves her daughter. She knocks Luther to the ground, but during the struggle, the horn on his mask pierces deep into her leg. Luther climbs on top of her, his hands wrapping tightly around her throat, trying to choke the life out of her. But Nina, fueled by pain, rage, and a mother's strength, pulls the horn out of her own flesh and drives it straight into his neck, ending him once and for all. Yet she doesn't stop there. She keeps striking him again and again until his head is nothing but a bloody mess. The next morning, Nina takes Luther's car and drives away with her daughter, finally escaping that nightmare. And then, a chilling message appears on the screen. Thousands of people go missing every year in America. It's believed that cults of cannibals are behind many of these disappearances. And that's how the movie ends. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next recap. Bye bye.